Welcome to the Quietest Ones in the Room with your host, Trey. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for clicking on this video and returning to check out what I have to say. You, by far, are the most beautiful and the most intelligent people on the face of the planet. And so I thank you once again. Kash Patel, it's been reported that he has been confirmed by the Senate as of today as Donald Trump's director for the FBI. So for those of you who didn't want that to happen, it's done. And we'll see what comes out of that. I'm sure they're going to have a photo out with him and Trump at some point. And let's move on. So from there, there's some information I heard, interestingly, regarding Doge that got some excited and also offended a few people, which is the idea of a Doge dividend check of $5,000. Now, in Trump's first administration, he gave people the semi checks. And so here we are full circle where, due to the findings of some funds that have been stashed away, Elon Musk and Donald Trump are seemingly proposing that $5,000 is sent to every American in this country. And so I've heard some people saying that they would rather not receive the $5,000 and just abolish the IRS altogether, which I don't know what you think about that, but I'm sure many of us would welcome it. And we'll see who gets the checks. We'll see who doesn't. We'll see who rejects who. We'll see if that all gets done. Maybe it doesn't, but that's in the news. And so those are the two big things that I wanted to bring up really quickly before I get into my main discussion, which is the idea that I realized last year pertaining the politics in America and the election and going into 2025 and as we move forward. I realized it was very clear to me that if you are not Christian in America, moving forward, it's going to be really difficult for you. If your ideology does not align with Christian values, it's going to be very difficult for you moving forward. I just listened to a podcast with Sam Harris. He had a guest on there who wrote a book about Christian nationalism. And they were having a discussion about Christian nationalism and its ties into evangelicalism, and if there is any type of overlapping with white supremacy, groups. And they talked about the Proud Boys Project 2025, all these different things. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of tongue twisted right now. They talked about all these different concepts and these individuals who they believe are power players in the Christian nationalist movement. And what I found interesting in the discussion is what they're missing and the arrogance at which I hear so many of these elites, especially on the left, and you have them in the right as well. There's this idea that the common man and woman can't make sound decisions based off their preferences. It's as if every step of the way, the common man and the common woman is wrapped up in a web of propaganda and tricks and poked and prodded and moved to and fro to accomplish the goals of the so-called oligarchs. And it's not to be denied that there aren't rich people who fit the oligarch archetype and are continually making it difficult for other wealthy people, but also the common man and woman. That's a given. But in particular, on the left, as I've seen it over the last, I'd say particularly since last summer till now, there's been a confusion of why are we here currently in America with the Trump administration taking over and things moving at a very rapid pace. And they're like, we warned everybody that a dictator was going to take over. There's just something we needed to do about it. And it's just over now. Democracy is failing. The Constitution is at risk, etc. So the thing that I've realized so many of them miss is they didn't understand that there were groups of people in this country with Christian values, or who were culturally Christian, or who were maybe even atheists and agnostic, but their values in a lot of ways still aligned with many Christian values, and that those people were not feeling supported. So many of the elites thought the way you reach these people was typically by your major media, your high level institutions, your Harvards, your Stanfords, so they didn't really understand that there were a group of people who deserved to be supported, and because they weren't receiving that support, when Trump and his grassroots evangelists were going into these communities in the rural areas and even in the cities and meeting with people face to face, the individuals that the left elites forgot about started to feel like they had someone who had their back and was going to implement policies that were going to benefit them long term. And to be honest, with the failures of Joe Biden, just like any president, every president has pros and cons. Every president has successes and failures. But Joe Biden failed, Joe Biden failed to bring the frustration of that particular group to the forefront and address what they were arguing about. Instead, it became everyone who disagreed with a particular agenda was a white supremacist, a Nazi, anti-Semite, on and on and on and on. I mean, the labels that were thrown out, it was every day. Every day somebody was being called something. And it's not to say that some of the people that were being called racist or Nazis or whatever wasn't always accurate. Sometimes it was. But in grouping people who didn't align with those individuals in one lump, putting them all in one pot and creating a racist, homophobic, Nazi jambalaya, they set themselves up to lose. People became really frustrated and fed up. And so here we are in 2025 with many educated elites still misunderstanding that they're making the same mistake again, which is not understanding that because people have different preferences, different types of communities that they desire, that you have to find ways and a common sense approach to accommodate as many people as you possibly can. People became so frustrated with not just the male-female debate, not just the abortion debate. People started getting frustrated with the level of arrogance, lying, manipulation, and propaganda that the other side thought that they could use to control these people's communities. Because the truth of the matter is, propaganda is an effective tool to gain support from those who otherwise would not see your perspective on day-to-day issues, social issues, and more. But there were too many missteps by the left. And one of the biggest, and it's still done to this day, because one of the big things that the right and the left do, or any organization that wants to effectively use propaganda, is they meet people where their pain is. So they meet you where you're depressed. They meet you where you feel hopeless. They meet you where you're fearful. They meet you where the hate is. And then that is used to find some type of commonality between you and that organization, that institution, that political party, whomever, and make you believe that you have a friend. And your friend is now going to stand with you against the enemy. And so propaganda does a really good job of that when it's done well. When it's done well, it does work. But the problem that the left ran into was their figureheads didn't have a level, they weren't able to maintain a level of, I'm going to say this, they didn't have the ability to maintain a level of genuineness. Even though it's fake, they didn't have an ability to consistently maintain it to cause those that would otherwise never be on their side to believe in some of the bullshit that they may espouse. And they're still doing it today. People can see through the lies. They can see through the lack of preparation, concern, the smiles. They can see through, oh, prices are expensive now. Well, shit, they've always been for too long. So people like to try new things to figure out if the problems can be solved. That's really what we're dealing with. It's people, when given the opportunity to try something new, will do said things if they believe it's going to solve their problem. So the American people aren't so much stuck on any particular party as much as it is the individual in America do a cost benefit analysis and determine who's going to get me and my family closer to that goalpost that I desire to achieve. And right now, Christian values are taking the forefront, so much so that people who were proclaimed to be atheists, agnostic, are now playing the game of pseudo Christianity to stay in the group, and move in a particular direction that, from their vantage point, saves the West against the East. And so when you live in America and you're on the left, you're thinking it's about your politics, it's about your party, it's about your agenda. But people are looking past you now. People are looking at bigger threats. So, yes, there's an ideological war between left and right, but the bigger war is a religious ideological war taking place around the globe right now. And if you don't see that yet, maybe as the right continues to push agenda and the left begins to wake up to the realization of what it really was all about and maybe align or find a new way, I don't know. But ultimately, it's not as simple anymore as left versus right. It's a bigger ideological war. And so, as I stated last year, and I'll say it again, if you're not Christian in America, as you continue to see things unfold in this country, you're going to have a difficult time if you can't and won't accept it. So I'm not here to tell you what to believe, how to operate with you and your family, but a decision is being made for the American people on behalf of many of the American people. So anyway, please share your thoughts in the comment section. Like, subscribe, and until next time.